Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. Wednesday evening, I pull into our driveway in Carytown around 6:30. The house looks normal from the outside. Lights on in the kitchen, Rachel's car already here. I'm thinking about what we might have for dinner, maybe suggesting we order from that Thai place she likes. But when I walk inside, something feels off. Rachel's at the kitchen table, sitting unnaturally straight with a notebook in front of her like she's prepared a presentation. The look on her face stops me before I make it past the entrance. "We need to talk about our relationship," she announces before I can even set my keys down on the counter. I grab a water from the fridge and pull out the chair across from her. "Okay, I'm listening. What's going on?" She sits up straighter, like she's about to give a presentation. "I've been thinking a lot about how we can create healthier boundaries in our marriage. More intentional intimacy." I take a sip of water, trying to process what I'm hearing. What exactly does that mean? Well, I think we need to be more structured about our physical affection. Plan it better instead of just being spontaneous all the time. I was thinking Sundays would work perfectly. Every Sunday, we set aside dedicated time for planned connection. I almost choke on my water. You want a schedule when we're affectionate with each other? Don't make it sound so clinical, Nathan. I'm talking about being purposeful with our physical relationship. Couples need boundaries and structure to maintain long-term satisfaction. It's about quality over quantity. This isn't how Rachel normally talks to me. These words sound rehearsed, borrowed from somewhere else. So let me understand this correctly. You're essentially moving to a by-appointment-only model for our marriage? That's not what I said. But it is what you're describing. Affection on Sundays only, planned in advance. That's literally implementing an appointment system for intimacy. She shifts uncomfortably in her seat. "You're not taking this seriously." I am taking it very seriously. In fact, I think it's such a good idea that I'm going to implement some boundaries of my own. If you're scheduling your availability for certain aspects of our relationship, I'll need to do the same thing across the board. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm adjusting my entire calendar and availability schedule. I'll need to carefully review what services I'm offering and when they're available for booking. Her confident expression wavers slightly. "You're being ridiculous right now." I stand up from the table, picking up my water. "Not at all. I'm being responsive to new policies. You've given me a lot to think about regarding availability and boundaries. I genuinely appreciate the heads up about the new operational framework." I head toward my home office, leaving her sitting there with her notebook still open. From down the hall, I hear her chair scrape against the floor as she stands up, but I close the door and start working on a project I've been putting off for weeks. If we're fundamentally restructuring how this marriage operates, I can absolutely adapt to that model. Thursday morning, I wake up and go through my usual routine. Make coffee, check the news, start getting ready for the day. The difference is, I only make 1 cup of coffee. Just mine. Rachel comes into the kitchen around 7 and stops in her tracks when she sees me pouring. "You didn't make me any coffee?" I didn't want to assume you wanted coffee without scheduling it first. I'm respecting the new boundaries we established. That's not what I meant by boundaries, Nathan. Then you might want to clarify the parameters. Because if affection requires advanced planning and structure, I figured practical support and daily courtesies probably fall under the same framework. She stares at me like I'm speaking a completely different language. "You're being petty, and you know it." "I'm being consistent with the model you proposed." I take my coffee and head toward the door. "Have a productive day." The look on her face tells me she's realizing this might not play out the way she imagined, but I leave before she can say anything else. That evening when I get home, she tries to tell me about something that happened at work. Some drama with a coworker, a situation she'd normally dissect with me for 20 minutes. I listen politely, not at all the appropriate moments, even make a few acknowledging sounds. But I don't engage the way I usually would. No follow-up questions, no emotional investment in the details of her story, no shared laughter at the absurdity of workplace politics. "You're not even really listening," she says, frustration creeping into her voice. "I heard everything you said. Jennifer did something passive-aggressive in the meeting, your boss didn't notice, and you had to smooth it over afterward. But you're not actually listening. Not the way you usually do. I'm just not taking new clients for emotional support this week. My calendar is fully booked with other commitments." She reaches for the remote and turns off the TV we'd been half watching. This is completely absurd. I was trying to improve our relationship, not destroy it. By limiting when we can be close to each other? By creating artificial restrictions on something that was working fine? By being more intentional about our connection. Right. More intentional. I turn the TV back on and go back to watching the show, leaving her sitting there processing the disconnect between her intentions and the reality she's created. Friday afternoon. The weather is beautiful and Rachel decides to rearrange the garden. She comes inside where I'm working and asks me to help her move some heavy planters in the backyard. She wants to get everything repositioned before the weekend. I'd love to help with that, but my physical assistance requires advanced scheduling now. You know how it is with boundaries and structure. Oh my God, Nathan, you're seriously acting like a child right now. I'm just matching the energy you brought to this relationship. If affection needs structure and planning, why wouldn't practical help follow the same framework? Because this is completely different. Is it though? Both require my presence. Both require my availability and time. Both require me to be emotionally and physically available to you. You established very clearly that my availability needs to be planned and scheduled in advance. She throws up her hands in exasperation and storms back outside. I watch from the kitchen window as she struggles with the heavy terracotta pots, clearly frustrated and working much harder than she needs to. Part of me genuinely wants to go help her. We've always been a team with home projects. But I need her to understand what she's actually asking for when she creates these artificial limitations. Friday evening, we end up watching TV in completely separate rooms. Her in the living room, me in the bedroom. The silence in the house feels heavy and strange. Saturday morning starts quietly. I'm making breakfast in the kitchen when Rachel suddenly bursts through the door from the garage, and I can see the panic written all over her face. Nathan, the car won't start, and I absolutely have to get to the store before it closes. They're holding something for me, and if I don't pick it up today, they'll release it. Did you schedule time for car assistance on today's calendar? What? No. This is an emergency. I need your help right now. I understand it feels urgent, but you're the one who established that my availability needs to be planned in advance. Boundaries, remember? Structure and intentionality. This is completely different. I genuinely need your help. And that's the thing about help, Rachel. It requires presence. Presence requires availability. And you very specifically scheduled my availability for Sundays only. Today is Saturday. She stares at me, and I can see the exact moment when the full implications of her own system click into place. Her face goes through several expressions in rapid succession. You can't possibly be serious about this. I'm completely serious. This is the exact system you designed and implemented. If affection and intimacy require an appointment and advanced planning, why on earth wouldn't practical support and help follow those same rules? Her voice actually shakes when she speaks. I didn't think about it like that. I didn't think it through. No, you didn't. But I'll tell you what. I'll make an exception this one time. Consider it emergency services, one-time offer only. I go out and help her jumpstart the car. We don't exchange a single word while we work. The jumper cables connect, the engine turns over, and she drives off to run her errands. I go back inside and try to focus on other things, but I can't stop thinking about the look on her face when she realized what her boundary system actually meant in practice. When she returns a few hours later, she's carrying takeout bags from Lo Possum, which is my absolute favorite restaurant in all of Richmond. She must have driven all the way across town through the Saturday traffic on Carey Street to get there. She sets up everything on our back porch with obvious care and attention. It's my favorite dish from their menu, the one I always order when we go there for special occasions or celebrations. She's even lit candles and put out our nice placemats, the ones we usually save for holidays or when we have important guests. The whole scene is thoughtfully arranged. I sit down across from her, taking in all the effort she's put into this gesture. This is really thoughtful, I say, and I genuinely mean it. I can see she tried. I thought we could have a really good evening together. Just the two of us, like we used to do before all this started. This is genuinely nice. I appreciate the effort. But it's Saturday, and aren't we scheduled for connection on Sunday? Can you please just stop with that? Stop with what exactly? Following the framework you established for our relationship. She sets her fork down with more force than necessary. Maybe we could expand it. Sundays and Thursdays. Would that be better? Would that work for you? You're still missing the entire point here. What point am I missing? Why did you think our marriage needed scheduling in the first place? What problem were you trying to solve? She doesn't answer right away, just pushes food around on her plate. I've been doing some reading about healthy relationships and what experts recommend. That's not what I asked you. Before all this reading and research, did you feel unloved? Unappreciated? Did I do something specific that made you think we had a problem that needed fixing? No, but then where did this really come from? Who convinced you this was a good idea? There's a long pause. Long enough that I know the answer is going to be revealing. There's this online community I've been part of. It's called Sovereign Self Partners. They're relationship experts, people who really understand partnership dynamics. And are these experts happily married themselves? There are thousands of members in the community. That's not what I asked. I asked if they're happy. Are these thousands of members in thriving, joyful marriages? She looks visibly uncomfortable now. Most of them are actively working through various relationship issues. So you took marriage advice from people who are actively struggling in their own marriages? People who are working through problems and conflicts? They have experience, though. They've been through difficult things and learned from them. Been through what exactly? Divorces? Separations? Years of dysfunction and misery. And these are the people teaching you how to have a happy marriage? When you put it that way, it sounds bad. I'm not putting it any way. I'm just asking you to see what's actually happening here. These people are miserable in their relationships. And miserable people don't want you to be happy. They want you to join them in being miserable. She goes quiet for the rest of dinner, but I can see the wheels turning in her head. Sunday morning arrives, and Rachel comes downstairs with this expectation written all over her face. Today is Sunday, the scheduled day, so she clearly expects everything to just be normal now. She comes up behind me in the kitchen and tries to put her arms around me. Wait, did you actually book this time? Because I don't see it anywhere in my calendar. Nathan, that's not what I meant. But it is exactly what you said. You wanted structure and planning and intentionality. I'm simply providing the structure you requested. She storms off, and I can hear her laptop open in the living room a few minutes later. When I walk by to get something, I glance over and see she's on some kind of forum. Multiple browser tabs open, actively typing responses. She's still seeking validation from these strangers, still engaging with the very community that planted this seed of dysfunction in her head. Monday evening, I walk into the bedroom to grab something from the closet and find Rachel on a video call. Multiple faces in little boxes fill her laptop screen. The moment she sees me enter the room, she quickly minimizes the window, but not before I catch a glimpse of the interface, the community forum logo visible in the corner. Let me guess. The community? Sovereign Self Partners? They're helping me process what's happening between us. Process what exactly? How your brilliant boundary system backfired in ways you didn't anticipate. How the scheduling framework created exactly the opposite of what you wanted. She immediately gets defensive, her shoulders tensing. They said you're probably just testing me right now. That men do this when they feel threatened by healthy boundaries. That this is a classic power play. So they want you to double down on something that's actively hurting our relationship? That's their expert advice after everything? They want me to hold firm. To not give in to manipulation tactics. To maintain my sovereignty. I sit down on the edge of the bed, trying to keep my voice level even though frustration is building. Of course that's what they want. Have you thought about why that is? Think about it logically for just a second. If their advice works and this situation continues, gets worse, then I'm the problem. I'm the controlling husband who can't handle boundaries. That validates everything they believe about men and relationships. It proves their entire worldview correct. She's listening now, but I can see the conflict written across her face. If their advice fails completely and we fall apart, if our marriage crumbles, then you become just as miserable as they are. You join their club. You become another voice in that community talking about how terrible relationships are, how men can't be trusted, how independence is the only safe path. Either way, they win. You lose. We lose. Our marriage loses. Her eyes start to water, and for the first time since this whole thing started, it looks genuinely emotional rather than manipulative or calculated. We eat dinner in near silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. After we clear the dishes, I decide we need to address this head-on. No more dancing around the core issue. You have a choice to make, Rachel. Me or them. Our marriage or that community. That's not fair to put it that way. You're making it sound black and white when it's more complicated than that. Isn't it fair? Isn't that exactly what this is? These people don't know me at all. They've never met me in person, never seen how we interact on a daily basis, never witnessed our actual relationship in practice. They've never sat across from us at dinner, never seen how we handle conflicts, never observed how we support each other. But somehow they get to decide how we love each other. They get more say in our marriage than I do. They have knowledge, expertise from working with thousands of couples. Do they really? Or do they have opinions based on their own failed experiences? You're reporting the most intimate details of our private life to complete strangers on the internet. And those strangers now have more authority over our marriage than your actual husband does. Does that sound healthy to you? Does that sound like a good relationship dynamic? They're just trying to help me navigate this difficult situation. Are they actually helping? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like they're trying to systematically sabotage what we have. And you're letting them do it. You're actively handing them the tools to destroy us. I need some time to think about everything, she says quietly, her voice barely audible. Take all the time you need. I genuinely mean that. But I need you to understand something important. I won't compete with a committee of anonymous strangers who have a vested interest in seeing us fail. I won't participate in a relationship where internet forums have more influence than the person I married. I won't live like that. I grab my pillow from our bed and head toward the door. I can hear her crying softly as I walk down the hall to the guest room, but I need her to sit with the consequences of her choices. I need her to really think about what she's doing and who she's listening to. This has to be her decision, made consciously and deliberately, not something I force or manipulate her into. Tuesday morning is painfully tense. No conversation at all during breakfast. Just the sounds of silverware against plates and coffee being poured. She leaves for work without our usual goodbye kiss, without even looking at me. I don't chase after her or try to force anything. This has to be her choice. When she comes home that evening, much earlier than usual, she sits me down at the kitchen table with a serious, almost solemn expression on her face. I did something today, she says, her voice steady but quiet. I wait, giving her the space to explain whatever it is she needs to say. I deactivated my account, my Sovereign Self Partners account. I deleted it completely, removed all my posts, my profile, everything. I feel something in my chest ease, a tension I didn't even fully realize I was carrying for the past week. What happened? What changed? I posted an explanation first. Before I deactivated, I wanted to tell them why I was leaving, to explain what I'd realized about their advice and their community. She pulls out her phone with a shaking hand and shows me screenshots she saved. This is how they responded to me. I scroll through the messages slowly, my anger building with each one. They called her weak, said she was regressing into old codependent patterns, that I was controlling and manipulating her, that she was making the biggest mistake of her life and would regret it. The vitriol is absolutely stunning in its intensity and cruelty. They weren't supporting me at all, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. They were actively rooting for us to fail, for our marriage to completely fall apart. Tell me more about this community. Help me understand what you've actually been involved with these past few months. She takes a deep breath, composing herself, and starts explaining. The community was incredibly toxic once you looked beneath the surface rhetoric. Members were literally competing over who had the worst marriage, who had the most dysfunction, who was suffering the most in their relationship. It was like a contest to see who could be the most miserable. When someone's relationship deteriorated or ended, others would actually celebrate it as proof that their worldview was correct, that all marriages eventually fail. Anyone who reported genuine improvement in their relationship got attacked immediately or dismissed as being in denial about what was really happening. She continues. They called me weak, she says again, tears streaming down her face now, for choosing to love my own husband without putting up walls and restrictions, for wanting to be close to you. And what did you tell them before you left? I told them that's exactly what I was doing, that I was choosing connection and intimacy over their artificial independence, that I was choosing my marriage. And they said that's exactly what controlled women always say, that I was exhibiting classic signs of being manipulated. She wipes her eyes roughly with the back of her hand, because they literally can't imagine someone actually wanting to be genuinely close to their own spouse. I reach across the table and take both of her hands in mine. She squeezes back hard, like she's holding on for dear life. One woman sent me a private message after I posted that I was leaving. She continues, her voice breaking. Said I'd regret it within a month, that you'd get comfortable and stop putting in any effort once you knew you could have me whenever you wanted. That all men are like that eventually. I let that hang in the air for a long moment before responding. Have I actually stopped trying over all these years we've been together? She shakes her head vigorously, tears falling freely now. You ask about my day and actually listen to my answer, not just waiting for your turn to talk. You kiss me goodbye even when you're running late for work. You leave me little notes sometimes. You remember things I mention in passing, things I didn't even think you were paying attention to. You notice when I'm having a hard day and find small ways to help. Her voice breaks completely. You've never stopped trying. Not once in all our time together. They just systematically convinced me that you eventually would. That it was inevitable. We sit there holding hands across the kitchen table for a long time, not saying anything else, just being present with each other in the quiet of our home. Wednesday morning feels fundamentally different from all the previous days. There's a palpable shift in the atmosphere of the house, subtle but unmistakable. Rachel makes coffee for both of us as a peace offering, setting my cup down next to me with a tentative smile. I accept it without any sarcasm or pointed comments about scheduling or appointments. That evening, we have an even longer conversation about everything that happened. She tells me more about the community's actual messaging and manipulative tactics. How they made her feel genuinely stupid and naive for being happily married. How they convinced her that spontaneous affection meant I didn't truly value her. That if I could have her affection whenever I wanted it without having to work for it, I would inevitably take her for granted and stop appreciating her. The scarcity would create appreciation, they promised. It was basic economics applied to love. Did I ever actually make you feel taken for granted? I ask her directly, needing to hear her answer. No. Never. Not even once in all our years together. She's crying again, but it's different now. Cleaner somehow, more cathartic. They just convinced me it was inevitable. That it was only a matter of time before you stopped valuing me, before the novelty wore off and you stopped trying. She shares even more disturbing details about the community's internal structure and belief system. The founder has been divorced 3 times and makes substantial money selling expensive courses on relationship independence and sovereign partnership. Most of the active members, the ones posting constantly and driving the conversation, have been married less than 5 years total, or they're already divorced and bitter about it. Anyone who had been married 10 years or longer and reported being genuinely happy was immediately accused of lying to themselves and the group, or being in complete denial about the reality of their situation. The language they used was so insidious, she says. Sovereignty, radical self-focus, emotional autonomy. Everything was carefully designed to frame connection and closeness as fundamental weakness, as giving away your power. They made love sound like a trap, I observe quietly. Exactly. Because for them, in their experience, maybe it is a trap. Maybe their relationships really were prisons. But we're not them. We never were, and we never will be if we don't let them poison us. The rest of the week passes with gradual improvements. Things slowly returning to normal, but it's not instantaneous. We're both being careful, mindful. Rachel actively avoids all online relationship content now. Small moments of reconnection start happening naturally. A hand squeeze while passing in the hallway. A genuine smile over morning coffee. The simple act of sitting together on the couch without it feeling forced or awkward. Friday, Rachel asks me to help her trim back some overgrown bushes along the fence line. Without thinking about it, I immediately agree and head outside with her. We're both halfway through the work when we simultaneously realize what just happened and start laughing. The irony isn't lost on either of us. Just last week she asked for help with the planters and I refused, and now I'm out here working alongside her without any scheduling or appointment required. Saturday, we decide to take a walk around Belle Isle. It's a gorgeous fall day, the kind where the air is crisp and the leaves are just starting to turn vibrant colors. The James River sparkles in the afternoon sunlight as we walk the trails that wind through the island. Rachel apologizes again for everything, and I tell her honestly that I understand. She was manipulated by people who were skilled at manipulation, who literally made their living creating doubt and dysfunction in other people's relationships. Sunday morning, Rachel makes a joke as we're having breakfast. It's our officially scheduled day, she says with enough self-awareness and humor that we can both genuinely smile about it. The fact that she can joke about what happened, that we've reached a point where we can find some lightness in it, feels like real progress. Like we're actually healing from this. Monday, almost 2 weeks after this all started, we're sitting down to dinner when her phone starts buzzing repeatedly on the counter. Over and over and over. She picks it up, and her face goes pale as she scrolls through the messages that are flooding in. Someone from the community somehow found my personal number. She shows me the screen. The messages are absolutely vicious, dripping with spite. Telling her she betrayed the entire group and everyone in it. That she'll regret leaving when I inevitably disappoint her and stop trying. That she's weak and pathetic for choosing her marriage over her personal sovereignty. The vitriol is shocking in its intensity, but also revealing. These people are showing exactly who they really are. I watch as she immediately blocks the number without responding, without engaging at all, without trying to defend herself or explain her reasoning. The old version of me might have engaged with them, she says quietly, staring at her phone. Might have tried to defend myself or explain my reasoning. Tried to make them understand. The old version of you is confused and manipulated. This version knows exactly what matters and where your priorities need to be. 2 more weeks pass with continued steady improvement. We're finding our rhythm again, settling back into our natural patterns, but it's better somehow. More conscious, more intentional in the genuinely good way, not the manufactured way that community promoted. We both understand now, in a way we didn't before, how fragile good things can be when outside influences get involved. How easily what we built together could have been destroyed by people who had never even met us. Just over 3 weeks later, on a lazy Sunday morning at home, we're having breakfast together. The kind of morning where neither of us is in a hurry to be anywhere. I'm reading the newspaper, she's scrolling through her phone, and there's this comfortable silence between us. The kind of comfortable that the Sovereign Self-Partners community would have immediately called problematic and unhealthy. Something happened at work yesterday, Rachel mentions casually, setting down her phone. I look up from the sports section. What's that? A woman in my department asked me about marriage advice. She said her husband has gotten too comfortable with her, and her friend suggested she needs to create some distance to make him appreciate her more. Like a scarcity tactic. What did you tell her? I told her that if her husband is comfortable, that actually means he feels safe with her. That's a feature of a good relationship, not a bug. It's something to appreciate and nurture, not something that needs to be fixed or destroyed. I smile and reach across the table to squeeze her hand. She squeezes back, holding on for an extra moment. I almost lost you, she says softly, her voice thick with emotion. I almost destroyed everything we built together, everything we have, by listening to people who didn't know us, who had never even met us, who had no investment in our actual happiness. But you didn't lose me. When it really mattered, when the choice was actually in front of you, you chose us. You chose our relationship. We make a pact right there at the breakfast table, in the warm morning sunlight streaming through our kitchen window. No more outside voices interfering in our private matters. No more anonymous internet strangers getting a vote in how we conduct our relationship. If we ever genuinely need help or guidance with something, we'll see a real licensed therapist together. Someone ethical and trained, not anonymous internet strangers with their own agendas and their own failed relationships. Rachel pulls out her phone, and I watch as she methodically deletes every single relationship advice app she has installed. The forums, the communities, the coaching programs, the influencer content. All of it goes, one app at a time. When she's finished, she sets the phone face down on the table with a sense of finality that makes me believe she really means it this time. We settle into reading the Sunday paper together, sipping our coffee in comfortable silence. Natural and easy, and exactly what that toxic community said was wrong with relationships. Exactly what they said would lead to taking each other for granted. Turns out, this ordinary comfort is exactly right. It's exactly what we both want. It's what we chose together, and we're not going to let anyone else tell us differently ever again. The morning sun continues streaming through our kitchen window, warming everything it touches. I reach over and take Rachel's hand again, and she squeezes back immediately. No schedule required, no appointment necessary, no planning needed. Just us, choosing each other in this moment, the way it should be, the way it always should have been. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.